bear with me. You might have to go back on this part once or twice. I'll try to sum it up nicely at the end, but it gets a little crazy. And there's a lot of names. Let's get into it. So, a brief note on the Athens-Persian relations prior to the revolt. In 510 BC, so about 12 years prior to this, Athens, with the help of Cleomenes, the Spartan king that we were just referencing, ousted the current tyrant Hippias. Hippias would then go to Artaphernes in Sardis. Remember, he was the satrap, pledging Athens to Persia if they would help him recover his rule. So a tyrant, Hippias, got kicked out of Athens and sought the help of a Persian satrap, Artaphernes in Sardis. Okay, bear with me. In the meantime, Cleomenes, the king of Sparta, had instilled a pro-Spartan tyrant, Isagoras, in Athens. At this point, Cleisthenes, who was an Athenian, whose family had ruled Athens for 36 of the last 50 years, proposed radical change. Athens was to become a democracy. For this proposal, Cleisthenes and his family were exiled from Athens by the aristocracy. But having received the promise of democracy, the people of Athens revolted. They expelled Cleomenes, the king of Sparta, and Isagoras, the Spartan puppet, and restored Cleisthenes to power. This was in 507 BC. And there are no easy victories, however, and Cleomenes would soon march on Athens. Fearing his reprisal, because remember, the Spartans had a professional army, the Athenians had sent a delegation to Artaphernes, requesting aid. Typical of the Persians, Artaphernes had requested earth and water, which the delegation mistakenly gave. Shortly thereafter, Cleomenes was added again with a plot to restore the initial tyrant, Hippias. So Hippias got ousted in 510, Hippias went to Sardis, and then he came back. Cleomenes had instilled Isagoras, right? So then they kicked out Isagoras in 507 and put Cleisthenes in, and now Cleomenes wanted Athens. So now he tried to restore Hippias because Isagoras didn't work. And as you'd expect, the plot failed, and Hippias was sent running to Artaphernes, again in Sardis. Simultaneously, the Athenians had dispatched their own delegation to Sardis in hopes to dissuade Artaphernes of his potential support for Hippias. It was then that Artaphernes' solution was that the Athenians were to take back Hippias as tyrant. And having just become a democracy, the Athenians abhorred the idea. And seeing firsthand what the Persians would have them become, well, needless to say, they did not need much more motivation to fight against the inevitable subjugations the enemies of Persia faced. So to recap, Sparta helped Athens kick out their tyrant Hippias. Hippias then went to Artaphernes in Persia, seeking aid. It wasn't granted. In the meantime, Cleomenes instilled a new puppet, Isagoras, who was then kicked out in 507 by Cleisthenes and the people because of his promise of democracy. Cleomenes then tried to reinstill Hippias and failed. Hippias went and sought help from the Persians again, but at the same time, the Athenians went and tried to dissuade him from helping because they knew that if Persia was to invade at this time, they surely would have fallen. And the Persians told the Athenians to give them earth and water, or to just take Hippias back as tyrant. So, to summarize, the Athenians had just broken free of tyrant control, established democracy, and the only response the Persians had were, "We're not helping you, just take your tyrant back." So you could see how, 10 short years later during the revolution, they would be a little unwilling to bend to Persia. They saw an opportunity to attack. They knew what was in store. If Persia was to come knocking on their doorstep, they made the right decision. Was that clear, Riley?